Today, we're going to talk about a completely different way of looking at, well, everything. It's a huge shift in perspective, and it's all built on one single universal pattern that you can see everywhere from the tiniest bit of chemistry to our own minds. And that pattern is collaboration.
So picture this. It was totally pitch black. The only thing you could see was this one single beam of light from a headlamp, just cutting a little tunnel through the darkness. And right then it just hit me. That tiny, focused, limited beam of light, that's exactly what our consciousness is like.
I mean, think about it. Our senses are getting flooded with a mind-boggling amount of information from the world every single second. But our actual conscious attention, what we're aware of, is just like that headlamp. It's this narrow, very intense filter. We have to actively choose what to shine that light on, and everything else just stays in the dark.
Now, what's really wild is how much that focus actually costs us. Our brains are absolute energy hogs. Just the act of paying attention, of filtering all that information coming in, burns through about 20% of our body's entire resting energy. Yeah, just keeping that one little beam of light on is incredibly hard.
And this, right here, is a perfect illustration of why we're social creatures. One person's focus is super limited, and it's really expensive, energetically. But in a group, we can split the cost. One person might have that laser beam focus on the tiny details, while someone else has a wider, more like a floodlight beam, scanning for danger. When we put those together, we create a much more accurate composite model of what's really going on. It's collaboration, but at the level of our own minds.
So this whole idea of specialized collaboration, it doesn't just explain how we think, it actually defines what we are. If we take our focus and zoom all the way down, way down to the microscopic level, you find that a single living cell operates just like a huge, bustling, perfectly organized city.
Seriously, inside this tiny little city, you've got manufacturing districts, you've got shipping centers, you've got transportation networks, recycling plants, the whole shebang. And it's all being coordinated from a central control center. Every single tiny part has a very specific job, and they all work together in this beautiful, insanely complex collaboration just to keep the whole system alive and running.
Okay, so now let's pull that lens back out. Because this pattern, it isn't just happening inside one cell or one group of people. No, it connects every single living thing on this planet through one single shared history that goes back billions and billions of years. And this is just incredible. All life that we know of, from the bacteria deep in the soil to you listening to this right now, we can trace it all back to a single origin, a population of cells we call the last universal common ancestor, or LUCA for short. The proof is right there in our biology. The fact that we all use DNA, that we share the same basic genetic code, and that we run on the same biochemical fuel, it all confirms it. We are all just different branches of one gigantic, ancient family tree. And if you look at the history of that tree, the greatest leaps forward in evolution, they were always driven by a new, more complicated level of collaboration. First, you had non-living molecules that just happened to form these self-sustaining loops. Then, LUCA came along. But one of the biggest leaps of all time was something called endosymbiosis. That's when simple cells literally merged. One started living inside the other to create the complex cells that you and I and all animals and plants are made of today. It was a corporate merger that completely changed the planet.
Which of course brings us all the way back to us, to our species. We've seen that collaboration is basically a universal law of life. So what's our unique spin on it? What is humanity's contribution to this ancient pattern? What's our superpower?
Okay, before we answer that, we need to understand a key difference. In biology, things have a kind of functional purpose. It's called teleonomy. So a heart's purpose is to pump blood, right? But that's only because that function helps the animal survive. It's a purpose that comes from natural selection, not from the heart thinking about what it wants to do. This is really different from the kind of purpose that we feel as conscious beings.
You see, our own ability to collaborate evolved in stages. Way back when, it was all instinctual, non-verbal synchronization. Then, language developed, and with it came the ego, this sense of I, of me. And that was great. It allowed for really complex planning, but it also created distance and misunderstanding between us. Our superpower was the final step. We learned how to create shared narratives, stories, cultures, myths that allow millions of complete strangers to all pull in the same direction, to coordinate their actions toward a shared goal.
So, let's put it all together. We've journeyed from consciousness down to the cell and across 4 billion years of evolution. What does all of this actually mean for who we are, right here, right now?
The stories we tell ourselves about our countries, our cultures, our own individual identities, they are unbelievably powerful tools for collaboration. But at the end of the day, that's what they are, tools. They're roles that we play. And sometimes these roles can actually blind us. They can limit our perception of a much, much deeper reality.
And this is the core idea. This is the big realization. We aren't just humans. We are a part of that ancient, continuous, collaborative system that's been unfolding for nearly 4 billion years. We are the piece of that system that has, amazingly, finally woken up and become aware of itself. This last quote just brings it all home. When you strip away all of our complex human stories, all our dramas and our victories, the fundamental reality underneath is exactly the same as it is for a cell or for an entire ecosystem. It's just a dynamic, interconnected process of collaboration. The stories are what we add on top to give it meaning. So the ultimate takeaway is this: if we can truly grasp that we are not separate individuals, but we're actually expressions of one single continuous living system, well, that gives us a profound new sense of potential and of responsibility. It changes the question from just, who am I, to what are we becoming? And if we can see the whole of what we are, what new unifying story can we now choose to write together?